I'm gonna give you 4 exercises to make you faster as an athlete on the basketball court, and we're gonna start right now. I'm Olympic strength coach Dane Miller. I've coached at 10 different world championships, and I'm coaching at my 2nd Olympics this summer, and we help athletes and coaches develop comprehensive programs that yield state championships, national championships, and college scholarships. And the first exercise I'm gonna give you is going to be a drop lunge. If we look at the drop lunge, the whole goal here is to focus on this eccentric grounding position, okay? So we're here, the eccentric load as we come down. We wanna focus on being rigid, being stable in the trunk. Boom. That's a good example of a drop lunge. And what I just did there on the concentric here is I wanna try and push all the way back to that starting position. So I go here, boom, push back. Oftentimes what you'll see with athletes, if they do a drop lunge, they'll start to collapse forward, okay? And then they'll try to push and they'll get halfway back to here. So we wanna see nice and controlled, good position here where we're stopping. Try back, hold. Here, boom, come back, hold. Now, if we can take that drop lunge and make it a little bit more challenging, we can add 2 other aspects. The first one that I'm gonna do with a plate overhead. This might be something that you can do depending upon your strength in your shoulders, depending upon that trunk stability, that dynamic trunk control. So we're gonna take a plate and we're gonna hold just here. Okay, I'm gonna go here, boom, drive back. Okay, so it's a little bit more loaded. I can actually feel that in my right glute quite a bit. Second one here, boom, back up. And you wanna see as a coach, or if you're the athlete, each side, which one stops a little bit quicker, which one can drive a little bit better. The next step, we can go here, boom, come back up, okay? Here, boom, come back up. And then finally, we can get into this overhead position here, boom, come back up, boom, come back up. You might do this for like 5 triples, building through that progression. And finally, one of my favorite ways is gonna be a little bit more aggressive. We'll go on a box here, a plate, it's about 8 inches. We're gonna get a lot more force because we're elevated. So it's gonna be a little bit faster on the eccentric. The big thing here is that when we have change of direction or agility, anything like that in a sport, we're gonna have that foot typically in front of the knee. And then we're gonna slam on the brakes through the quads and through the glutes as we ground. So this is a really good drill if we're trying to cut and get out of a move. So we're gonna go here, boom, boom, drive back up. Again, you have to drive harder to get back up onto the box. Here, boom, back up. So one thing that you'll look for here with athletes is if they come down and they collapse all the way, they need to slam the brakes a little bit quicker. Or if they stop a little bit tall, try to get it a little bit deeper, boom, drive back up, boom, drive back up. Drop lunge, do that 5 triples, maybe 5 sets of 5, and that's gonna help you with that overall speed. So in this specific study, you're gonna see that vertical jump and relative strength is going to be related to speed with basketball players. And so what does that mean? That means that we've got to focus on acceleration-based speed. That aspect of speed is gonna play a major role in your success on the basketball court. If we think about comparing basketball to football or to soccer, we're looking at a very, very large field where you might actually achieve close to maximal velocity. Whereas on a basketball court, it's a much smaller space. So everything's gonna be based around cutting and everything's going to be based around agility and acceleration and then deceleration. So we've gotta factor this into the whole process of what we're trying to do when we're trying to build speed for basketball players. So in these movements, we're gonna look at how we can get the knee to go past the toe, just like old Ben Patrick. But the first exercise that we're gonna use is going to be a nice and simple split squat. And I like to use a pad, specifically our garage strength pad, available at garagestrength.com, as a target for proper range of motion. So we can get set here, okay, and we can have this foot in front of the knee, and then as we come down, we wanna see the knee track forward and come back up. Okay, here, come back up. And we wanna hold that back foot in that flex position here with the heel up. I don't wanna get lazy with it here. I wanna see if I can hold that flex position, come down, come back up. And you should feel that in your glutes up through your quads. Okay, here, boom, 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 one more, boom. Okay, so that's an example of that first progression. That's a pretty easy movement that you can do. Now, the next movement that we're gonna do, we're targeting unilateral strength. That's gonna help improve our speed. That's gonna help improve our trunk control. The next exercise, the next progression off of that split squat could be, okay, let's say you do 2 to 3 weeks of that barbell split squat. You want to increase your load on the bar. You want to increase your range of motion potentially. Now we're going to get into that single leg squat. So we're going to use the garage strength single leg roller. We'll get set into position here. Come down, and we want that knee to come forward. Drive up. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's switch sides. Here, boom, boom, boom. Let me get one more right there. Okay, now one unique thing here is that you can use single leg squats to build that leg strength, which will help you with your change of direction. And we can also use that in a contrast method where you can get really, really unique. I'm gonna show you that really cool exercise that you can use to contrast with the single leg squat. We come forward here, okay? This is my lead leg, obviously, right? I'm gonna be here. I almost want my back knee touching the ground. I'm gonna get set here, come here, boom, boom, boom. And what we can do is we can do like the first 2 sets with that stop, and that's gonna be a rotating jump lunge. And then as we build up, we get a little bit more comfortable with it. We get more comfortable with that rotation. We're not falling all over the place. Oftentimes younger kids, you'll see sort of fall like that. Try and get them to land stable, and then you can actually get them to repeat it really quickly. But this is going to pair really well with those single leg squats. It's gonna increase your speed and your overall agility. So if we're talking about change of direction or we're talking about speed, we've gotta bring in exercises that are gonna be done at higher rates or with large forces in short periods of time. And that's where exercises like plyometrics can come into play. And we can actually think about grounding. That's an eccentric grounding position there. I'm gonna accelerate back up, okay? So a simple box jump. Now, when we think through this, we've gotta look at what specific exercise, if we're talking about agility or we're talking about speed, we're talking about change of direction, how can we actually execute something that will transfer over to the court? And this is where the Drach step comes into play. This is a movement pattern that we learned directly from Michael Drach. It's really, really simple, but it's really, really effective for showing that change of direction. So if I'm gonna start in this position here, we've got 3 cones. So if you're at home, you can have cones set up, you can have lines set up on a football field, and you can even just think about starting here, okay, and having this lean. And we wanna see most of our weight on the outside of the foot here, most of our weight on the inside of the foot that we're cutting off of, okay? So if I'm cutting here, weight here, weight here. And we can almost hold this deep position here and try and think, have this knee here, have my shoulder outside of my knee, and cross over and drive out. Now, to get into that position, I can go from each direction where I'll go here, boom, boom, out, okay? Or I can go the opposite way where I'll go here, boom, boom. Now I'm here and I can drive out. The cool part with this drill is that you can play around with this and you can do a couple sets of just that pause, okay? So we can pause here, hold, 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 and you wanna push from the inside, push from the outside, boom, okay? We can do that again from this side. Try to work on that tibia angle here, weight here, shoulder out here, boom, and get out of that. Now, as we get a little bit more effective, as we get better at this, and this is something that we can do over a long period of time, we can get set here. So if I'm gonna cut facing that way, I plant, I get that foot ahead, okay? So I'm here, plant, boom, boom, shuffle out, okay? Here, wrong way, here, boom, boom, shuffle out. Same thing now. If I switch, if I want to face this way, I'm going to go plant, boom, out, okay? And we can just build this up. We've got a shuffle there. We can do a karaoke out of that, so we can go here, boom. You're going to be in position where I'm here, I plant, okay? Here, come out. The whole big factor here is focused on that ground contact. Focus on the position and where you're applying that force. Drive from the hips. This is gonna be a great movement that's gonna help you with that agility on the court. It's gonna take us into that next big exercise. So if we remember back to the research paper that we referenced, we saw that there was a direct relationship with relative strength, which is essentially pound for pound strength, compared to vertical jump and speed. Okay, so if we're looking at that, we have to really think through what movements can we use to increase relative strength. So then we have to look at it and say, okay, how can we improve relative strength? Typically that will be done with either really heavy weight or really fast movements. So that's gonna help with our neurological firing, it's gonna help with our neurological efficiency. And that's where we're gonna bring in a couple more big time movements, starting with a hang clean, okay? Most collegiate athletes will be exposed to a movement like a hang clean. Now, I think this is very effective for basketball. I've spoken with Al Vermeil, who used to be the strength coach for the Chicago Bulls when they won 3 different world championships, and he would talk about a couple other key movements that he liked to use quite a bit, especially with taller athletes. And outside the hang clean, the next movement he would use would be a 2-box snatch. So we could get set here and execute a 2-box snatch pretty rapidly. Okay, so we're here, boom, oh, here, boom, nice and fast, okay? And part of the aspects around that 2-box snatch is that you're gonna be taking that from this quarter squat position and lighten that up. Okay, that's a really good movement. Another movement that can be done at very high speeds with higher force in a shorter time frame or a shorter range of motion, which will lead to a greater expression of impulse, might be like a high hang power snatch. Okay, so I'm gonna get set here. This will be above the knee. Boom, okay? One more. Boom, just like that. There's some progressions that we can use off of this. We can do something as simple as like a dumbbell snatch. And this could be an exercise that your athletes use to learn the change of direction. The downfall of a dumbbell snatch is that the load's not gonna be that high. It's a little bit easier to execute. It still will be a good teaching tool to find that coordination, to explode through the floor. Think about putting a lot of force into the ground and changing direction. A lot of younger kids, when they start to do dumbbell snatches, they might stand like this and they're really rigid. Teach them to change direction. Remember, if we're on a court, it's a smaller space. So the speed will be related to change of direction. That's where these movements come into play. And then if we take that progression from that dumbbell snatch, we could go in and execute something a little bit simpler, like a muscle snatch. But we can have our athletes do a dumbbell snatch and do that for 2 to 3 weeks. Let's say they learn that change of direction, they learn that long pull. And then as we progress to a barbell, we can use a movement like a muscle snatch, which will be at pretty high speeds. And we want to have them keep thinking about that fast, explosive finish. So we're here, boom, boom. So you can take the hang clean, you could progress and learn the snatch with the dumbbell snatch, then progress into that muscle snatch, then get into that 2-box power snatch, then get into that high hang power snatch. Those are all great movements to help improve your overall relative strength. So that ended up being about 16 different exercises, and oftentimes basketball players struggle with taking all these movements and putting it into a cohesive program. But that's exactly why we put together our Peak Strength training app. All you've got to do is head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, and to make sure that you can keep improving on the hardwood floor, make sure that you select basketball-based programming. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.